Now, obviously, even before social media, because I think it's so important, in today's day and age, that if you're going to pursue media or, be a personality, you have to stand out and kind of create your own personal brand. Like, I think personal branding is so big right now. And I'm sure you'd agree with that. When you started in TV and you started in media, did you feel like, were there certain things you were thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this to stand out and, establish the personal brand of Rick Henry, and people are going to know me for this? And, because some TV guys will have slogans. Heck, nowadays, I mean, we're seeing, I think it was that guy in Charlotte that literally went famous on TikTok for dancing or whatever. I mean, like, there's all kinds of stuff that people are doing for their personal brands and to stand out. For you, was it just as simple as, hey, I'm just going to be myself and my work is going to stand out on its own merit? Or I guess, how did you go about sort of carving out that niche, if you will, that was like, hey, this is Rick Henry. This is why I'm unique. This is what makes, especially on the TV side of things, this is what makes me unique. And, I guess why you should tune into me, why you should care about what I have to say.
Well, one thing I tell folks, just be yourself.
Right.
You can't go out there and say, hey, I'm going to be the next Chris Berman, or I'm going to do things exactly the way this guy or this lady will do something, because it's not going to work for you, because it's not genuine. You can study people and go, hey, I like the way they did that. How can I incorporate that into my delivery? And also, I just wanted to show people, just have a good time with it. Use some humor, just work hard, and cover the things that people have an interest about. And also do it in a way with a special way of writing, and just try to do everything at A+ quality. But the most important thing is just be you, do you.
Yeah, I agree. Be yourself 110%. The interesting thing you mentioned earlier, Rick, is that, when you were talking about the story about NASCAR and Darlington, like you said, there was no Twitter, there was no texting. It's crazy because I think, you've obviously, through your career in media, you've seen seismic shifts in the way media is distributed, the way it's consumed, just the overall media landscape. I mean, you literally started, there was no internet. I'm not trying to like date you or anything, but there was no internet, right? Like, people weren't going on their, people were not going on their computers to read an article. It was all newspaper. Then the internet happens. Then smartphones happen. Then social media happens.
Right.
Like, what is it? Because again, that's something that keeps you on your toes. And like you mentioned, being well-rounded in regarding to, covering every sport and just talking about things people care about. You can't be kind of in tunnel vision, right? You have to be able to touch on everything. You got to have all those tools in your shed. I mean, you've had to make adjustments and you adapt or die. And I'm sure there's probably people that you knew, or there's been sportscasters or people that, hey, they didn't like social media or they didn't like the internet and they didn't make the adjustment, and you fade into oblivion. I mean, I think we're seeing that now, right? So, and I know that just the media industry as a whole, like news, the state newspaper or just anybody, they've had to make that adjustment in regards to how they distribute media. I think I talked to somebody else that the state has become much more like they rely on their digital product much, much more now, because people aren't necessarily buying a newspaper. They're going on their phone, they're looking on their smartphone, and that's how they're consuming content. So what's it been like for you? Again, I'm sure it's kept you on your toes, and obviously you've done a really, really good job of rolling with the punches and adjusting to it and embracing it and making the most out of it. But again, you literally started when, like I said, there was no internet. There were no computers. People weren't consuming content that way. And now here we sit here, we're literally talking via the computer on Zoom, and, we're looking at content on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and that's kind of how people are consume things now. How crazy has that been? And what has that been like? Like, if I'd have told you when you first started, hey, one day people are going to have a computer this big in their pocket and they're going to look at all your stuff on that. Like, I'm sure you wouldn't have believed it. I mean, it's just like crazy how much things have changed.
Yeah, I think I would have called someone trying to get some help for you. Like, this dude has really gone off the deep end. But you're right. When I think back to those days, and it's like we were working in the Stone Age. One of the busiest days for me used to be the day that qualifying took place in NASCAR. It didn't matter what track. The phone in the newsroom would be ringing off the hook with people wanting to know who's on the pole. I'd have to have people in the newsroom, manning the phones. And I may be on another phone trying to call the press box or wherever they were racing, trying to get the results. And all you get is a busy signal. And, high school football, we had to rely on people calling in the score. And lots of times we go there, we wouldn't have an updated score, and we said, hey, well, hopefully we'll get that before we go off the air. And now, well, you like NASCAR. I mean, you got your phone, you got your computer, you can follow NASCAR alone, car by car, when they're qualifying. And then high school football. I love it for high school football because most schools have a Twitter account, and you can get all your scores right there on Twitter, which is really amazing. And when I tell the young folks in the business about how we used to struggle back in the day, they just look at me like, wow, how did you survive? But yeah, I've adapted really well because there are things about it that make the job easier. Right. Now, what I don't like about social media is people who love to spread rumors and retweet stuff that is not factual, especially when there's a coaching search involved. Because
when your basketball coach is potentially on the chopping block. I'll just say that. So I know there was a lot of stuff regarding Frank Martin. I'll just leave it at that. So.
Oh yeah, you have to take your time and track it down, make some calls just to make sure. Okay, yeah, that's not happening. So it can be a pain in the rear end on those occasions. But no, social media is a very helpful tool. And as a matter of fact, Twitter suspended my Twitter account a couple of weeks ago.
Really? I did not know that.
Because of that's why I started a new Twitter account. They said because of unusual activity. They didn't tell me what the activity was. I'm thinking maybe I was hacked. And so anyway, like I sent them the wrong email address that I had for it. And they go, oh, there's no, we have no record of that Twitter account. So, I remain locked out of it. And I said, okay, well, in the meantime, let me start this new account. So, I'd like to tell all you folks out there that my new Twitter handle is Rick Henry TV. So give me a follow. I lost all my followers and I'm trying to build back up. So we'll see what happens. But yes, that has been really frustrating.
Let's get Rick back as followers. Of all people that probably deserve to be suspended, I think you'd probably be last on that list. So that I feel like that's a little unfair.
It was it was unbelievable that they said because of suspicious activity or unusual activity. Okay, well, what happened? So I'm still waiting to get that answer.